I always say technology is either your best friend or your worst nightmare.
When I started my career, it was very male dominated.
It is so incredibly important to have the men in our lives champion us.
100%. I could not be where I am today without my husband's support.
Regardless of what you do it intentionally and do it on purpose.
Be persistent. If you know what you want, be persistent and don't compromise those goals.
Take yourself out of where all your responsibilities lie and do something for you that makes you happy.
You can't just be equal in a male dominated field. You have to be better.
Good morning, Roxanne. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you? Good morning.
I am awesome now that we got all this wonderful technology under our belt. You know, I always say technology is either your best friend or your worst nightmare.
Never fails. Never fails.
Right? And the funny thing is, I'd say the one good thing about the C word is that we have all this new, modern, wonderful technology. The not so great part is when it doesn't work, it's kind of puts you into that little lull. But we got through it, and I love that. And we called in our tech folks. So, woohoo. I have been so excited to speak to you because you have such a colorful past and career and what the amazing things that you have done to get to where you are. So for our audience who does not know you, can you share a little bit about what you do today?
Sure. Today I run a wealth management team in Ottawa for one of the big five banks. I have a team of about 100 people on my team who are client facing and some support staff as well. I have an incredible team that I've had the pleasure to work with for the last 6 years here in Ottawa.
I love the fact that you're like mute.
Right.
There you go. It's all good. You know what? I love it because for us, and that's one thing our audience knows is that we don't edit anything out. So what you see is what you get. We don't script anything. So I love the little ignore. That's awesome. Yeah. So, and you also told me that you did a big move, which, I hats off to people who can do that. I like to say that I could, if need be, but you did a big move. And how has that been for you? Because you sort of uprooted, and I mean, you didn't move far, but you still uprooted sort of everything and moved. How's that going?
Yeah, now today it's great. The struggle was real. We moved 4.5 hours away. My son was in grade 10 when we moved, and we really uprooted him. He left his friends for this career opportunity, and my husband followed me, so he left his job also to follow me here.
I love, sorry, I'm just gonna applaud the men in your life because
Yes.
we're talking about, you and I being in a male dominated space and industry. And I always say, it's so important because you live with two, I live with five, my four boys and my husband. It is so incredibly important to have the men in our lives champion us. It is not the be all and end all, ladies, because we could always do it ourselves. But isn't it that much better for you? Like, how does that make you feel as a woman?
100%. I could not be where I am today without my husband's support. He really was my champion, not just in my career, but even my professional development. When I decided to do my CPA, we had a daughter who was 2.5 years old when I started, and he would take her to swimming lessons on Saturday morning so I could focus on my studies. So he supported me our whole relationship and my whole career, which has been, I swear when I got my designation, I wanted another certificate with his name on it because of the unwavering support. I actually get a little bit choked up talking about it.
I know. I've got tears in my eyes because that's so beautiful. I hear so much of the opposite. So as you know, I also have a private investigation agency, and people come to me when their lives are falling apart. And sort of that was how, the I Am Unbreakable global media, a lot of it was born was these wonderful, amazing powerhouse women that were coming to me in, in times of personal and professional need. And a lot of them were not having that support. So I love hearing the fact that you have that backup. So what would you say to somebody that's watching that doesn't have that and is getting maybe pushback? Maybe you can't even answer that because you've never had that, but can you imagine? I do have that as well. And I haven't had it my whole career, second time around. But I have not had that my whole career. And a lot of times I was on my own trying to figure it out. And that's why I love hearing stories like yours, because um, it's so important to have the men in our lives sort of have our backs.
Absolutely, absolutely. So pick wisely, ladies, pick wisely.
Absolutely. Tip number one, do your homework. I always laugh and say we put more effort sometimes, and this is going to sound terrible, into getting a puppy. We do our research, we do our
Yes.
this, we do our background, right? Same thing. When you pick a partner, a life partner, pick wisely. I love that. That is
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, exactly. And there were some bumpy times for sure, both career wise and relationship wise. And one of your earlier questions, you said, "What would you say to other women?" And I would say on both fronts is be persistent. Like if you know what you want, be persistent and don't compromise those goals for anyone or anything. So and just know you're doing it for yourself first, right?
I love that. And, I think that women find it so difficult for many reasons, aside from the fact that a lot of times, whether you choose to have children or fur babies or no children, whatever the case may be, I feel that innately we are caregivers, and it could be to an aging parent, it could be to a million different things. So I feel as women, if we are raising a family, if we do have partners, if we do have other responsibilities, I feel like we always put that first. I love the fact that we're coming into sort of a new age and a new generation, if you will, regardless of age and gender, where we are allowing ourselves to be first and caring for ourselves, not in a egotistical selfish way, but in a way that, I'm putting on my mask first. I'm looking after me so I can look after everything else. And I love the fact that somebody like you says that it's important to look after yourself. So, what would you say would be some of the things that you do sort of to care for yourself, to make sure that you're good for all the people that, you help manage in your personal and professional career?
It's like when you're on the plane and the oxygen masks go down, you have to put yours on first before you can help anybody else. So it's whatever self care that works for you. I, enjoy exercise. I enjoy going for massage. I enjoy time with my gal pals. So it's actually taking that time and doing things for yourself where you get to actually free your mind of distractions because there's always distractions, right? There's always something, whether it is a child, an aging parent, a fur baby needing your attention, there's always going to be different things pulling for your attention. That won't change no matter what, right?
Yeah. And, you brought up something so important. It sounds like regardless of what you do it intentionally and do it on purpose, right? Don't just, yes, I'll get together for the 1 year with, once a year with my gal pals, but, intentionally say once a month, once every quarter, once a week, whatever you do, right? You're going to go out and you're going to just spend time on you. And you're right. It doesn't have to, number one, it doesn't have to cost money because a lot of people will say, oh, I can't go for a massage. Fair enough. You can go for a walk in nature. You can go for a bike ride. You can go for a walk. There's so many different things that you can do, but it sounds like you're saying take yourself out of where all your responsibilities lie and do something for you that makes you happy. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Change the scenery.
Love it. So let's dive in just a little bit to when you started your career. And I believe it was pretty much a male dominated space, very non-traditional. What are some of the struggles? Our tagline, the struggles part of the story. I bet you, I knew when we first spoke, I found you incredibly interesting. And I know that there's stories. And again, I'll be honest with you with something. I know you're very much like me. We're not here to bash men. In fact, I always tell people we love all humans. Doesn't matter regardless of gender, as long as they're kind. But I'm sure that you have went into a space where maybe you weren't so welcome. That was definitely my experience. So is there something that you can share?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I grew up with, two older brothers who, um, they did their typical older brothers things and, wrestled me and beat me up regularly.
Yeah,
So
which made you tough, which made you
right,
who you are. Yes.
exactly. So when I started my career and it was very male dominated, um, I felt I didn't feel unwelcome. I felt I belonged there because it's what I wanted. And I
Mm.
wouldn't allow myself to feel unwelcome because I knew I had grown tough. And I never took anything personally, even though, there were smart remarks. And it was just who I was at that time because I thought, I belong here. And yes, some people went out of their way to make me feel unwelcome or that I had a limited career advancement or if I wasn't willing to do whatever my employer asked of me or relocate, that my career wouldn't advance. I didn't let myself take those excuses or accept those truths. They weren't my truth.
Oh, I
Even
love
though,
that.
yeah, I had older brothers who really pushed me to have to fight for my seat at the table. So it was just normal. It was normal for me to fight for my seat.
I love that. And I feel too, Roxanne, that sort of going through my life again, I think I maybe mentioned this to you as well, sort of writing my book, looking back, I guess I was always sort of not because they were male dominated spaces, but because I enjoy doing things. I just do what I love what I do. I was the first girl to take auto in school because when they kind of segregated us and said, okay, girls off to home ec and sewing and cooking, boys go off to auto, I was like, I want to go to auto. And so that was sort of my first signal externally because my dad had two daughters. I was number two, should have been a boy. Guess what? He got a girl. So I was building fences and doing all that stuff. But I feel like, going through those kinds of things, I didn't realize that there was that divide until high school when, after 3 weeks, he was kind of like, you're not going, you can't go to the class. Finally, and this was when principals could actually yell at you. He's like, fine, you can't do it because you're a girl. And I was like, what? What does that even mean? Like, I find having a vehicle a form of independence. So I want to know how to change my oil, how the car works, mechanics, whatever. Finally, to get me out of his office, he let me go. But it sounds like for people like you and I, that's the norm, right? We just get it that there'll be some pushback, but we're kind of like somewhat, unscathed or sometimes scathed, who knows? But you just kept moving forward. What about women that don't have the older brothers or that sort of mindset and they love an industry that's sort of non-traditional for women? Do you have any sort of tips? Because you gave some really good ones, but I wonder if there's something else like my sort of go-to and my non-negotiable healthy boundary, personally and professionally. Anybody who knows me understands I do not let any of the outside influences in. So that also means loved family members, friends, social media, competitors, peers, does not matter, right? So that's my sort of non-negotiable. Do you have any sort of non-negotiable things when if you were somebody that maybe was not brought up the way you and I were?
Absolutely. So I'm going to use my daughter as a prime example. My daughter has gone into the trades. She's very tactile, loves to work with her hands, very non-traditional for females,
Love
and it's
that.
very, very male dominated. And she's going through interview processes right now. And so our coaching to her was you can't just be equal in a male dominated field. You have to be better. Your marks have to be better. You have to have more experience. You have to have a deeper breadth of experience. So she's going in. We made her go get her DZ license. We made her get other different type of experience that would add to this. She's actually interested in power line technician, which is very physical, very tactile, and very
Yes.
male oriented. And to have the attitude that, you know, you belong, you belong there. You should have a seat at that table because it's what you choose. But you have to do better, be better, take the high road, be stronger. And it
I
is
love
because you
that.
have that resilience. In these male dominated fields, you have to have the resilience and have the ability to let things slide off your back, that you don't take anything personally, because it's never personal. It's never about you.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go there for a second. So, first of all, I want to just backpedal to what you said. I love that. I feel that you should always be sort of better and the best. Try to show up the best. And I don't mean like perfect. I don't mean any of that stuff. I mean exactly what you said. Up your skills, up your physical strength, up whatever. And regardless, at least be the best version of yourself, right? And so that's
Exactly.
what you're teaching the younger generation, which I love and admire so much. Thank you for that. Now, sort of taking it one step further, do you feel that regardless sort of gender, everybody should have a seat at the table, correct?
Agree, 100%.
And it shouldn't, to me, it's almost, I don't want to say it's sad. It's too bad that you have to coach her in a way that, okay, well, get this, get that. Because I wonder if that's happening to her counterparts, right? Like to other people that are, let's say, applying and whatnot. But I do feel that you're giving her that competitive edge regardless, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so do you think that sort of from her perspective, and I love the fact that both mother and daughter sort of you're passing on that generational charisma, if you will, because it does take a lot to sort of step into a space where you're not welcome, right? And some people look, and I'm not going to say everybody. I know in my industry, being a private investigator, I had nobody that would help me, none of my peers, none of our competitors, until I knocked on every single door. And finally, one person, one man by the name of Tommy, actually sort of would talk to me, took me under his wing, and would help me within the industry. And sometimes it only takes that one person, right? You don't have to be loved or liked by everybody because I don't want to say who cares, but really who cares? Because you're not there for them. You're there for yourself. And how old is your daughter and how is she sort of coping with everything?
She's 26. She's just finishing up her power line technician program. So she's just now starting to go through all the interview processes, and she's mobile. She's applying out west. She's applying in Southern Ontario. She's applying in our own community. So that's the other. She has that flexibility. She's going to go where the career is.
I love that. She sounds like a total rock star and obviously has somebody wonderful that is supporting her, which is you and your husband and your family, which I think is so important. So let's just go back just for 1 second to let's just say that there are women that want to get into your field. It has it changed? It seems like it's changed and shifted a little bit, like from sort of a percentage wise. What can you share with us from where you are, from where you started to where you are today? How has it shifted? How has it changed?
So it's shifted a lot. There's a huge demand for women in my field, because women pay more attention to detail. Women are more empathetic. Women connect with their clients better. But it's been a huge challenge to attract women to this industry. We only have about 16% nationally of female representation in our industry. This is not just my employer. This is a industry wide stat. So it's a challenge for everybody, but it is the most incredible industry out of any career that you could have. Like, I love what I do, and I know the women that I work with love what they do, and they
Mm.
love with clients. So it's that constant struggle of how do we attract more women, right, to this field. So I have a student program that I run every summer, and I try and do a student co-op program in the fall as well. And I recruit directly from the university, and I recruit women only. And I'm not shy to say I'm looking for female students. And when I interview them, and again, we look for skill sets. Strong interpersonal skills is key to being successful in this industry. And I have recruited and met some incredible women that have fallen in love with this industry as well. So, they're coming in, starting just co-op programs, but we have to start somewhere.
I love that. And, I always say people will ask me, and I sort of laugh about this one. They ask me, are you a feminist? And I'll ask them, well, what does that mean? And then they're taken aback when you ask the question, because I know what they're trying to ask, but I want them to say it, right? And I said, well, like a feminist. And I said, well, I heard what you said. Are you asking, do I burn my bra? Like what, tell me exactly what you're asking. And so as we, so again, and then we end up having such a wonderful conversation. And so it is really about what I hear what you're doing is just being part of the solution. I don't feel like, I think the solution is having these kind of conversations, having open conversations, because somebody's going to watch this and be so intrigued in the fact that you mentor people, you have summer programs, there's a need for women. The connection part is huge. Our next publication is, and I've built all my businesses about creating connection and relationships. And I don't mean, hey, how are you? Okay, great. What can you do for me? It is about the same way you would create a personal relationship would be the exact same way you'd create a business relationship. And I feel like sort of the mentality from the past is still here, where it's what can you do for me versus, and I always lead with, hey, what can I do for you? And then if the relationship is authentic, it will grow. If you're meant to do business together, it will happen. But come into it with just a very open, honest attitude, I guess I would say. What do you think about that? Would you agree with that?
100%, absolutely. And that's another deliverable that women bring to the table is they bring their authentic selves. It's internal DNA for women. And they simply connect better. It's a fact. The other key thing too is that in our industry, the client is changing. We have more and more women who are making investment decisions, who are becoming the major breadwinner in their home. They're making more money, so they want to deal with women who understand the struggles they go through. Being the larger income earner, making the decisions, wanting to have a say in the investment decisions.
Yeah.
They're receiving inheritances and want to have a say over how that money gets invested. So more and more women are becoming our main clients.
And I think that's okay. I mean, look, I always go back to the fellas, and some of the biggest business deals and some of the best deals have been made on a golf course, right? And, they're bonding that way. And kudos, I love that. But I think same goes for women, that we can have our way of doing business, which, like you said, for me, it's all about connection. You have to be able to connect with somebody, especially when you're in an industry like yours, where you're making decisions for yourself, for your future, for your loved ones. And they're big decisions. They're not, should I buy, pink or purple? They're pretty big decisions. So you need to have that trust and that connection where people understand you. And I think it is massive to have other women. And I think it's also, I want to say this too, because sometimes people will say, well, I'm not comfortable saying, can I have a female doctor, can I have a female, whatever industry that you're looking into. But I love the fact that you're saying, well, that's what I do. And I specifically recruit women because there's a need for it. So why not, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so I also think too that, just sort of going backwards, when these women come to you, I think sometimes, like you said, if it's an inheritance, maybe they've lost somebody very close to them or a loved one, you have to just not treat it as a business transaction. I think you've got to create the relationship first. Would that be true in your
It's
experience?
relationship first. People will do business with people they trust. So first and foremost, it's, building the relationship, building the trust, doing the discovery of what that client needs. Often we don't even talk about the product or solution till the third or fourth meeting. It's all about building a relationship and trust.
100%, 100%. So sadly, we're coming to an end, and I do have two really important questions, if you don't mind me asking you, which one I think I already know because you sort of alluded to that, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I had an impact on change in our industry. That because of my trailblazing and because of my supporting other women, that we have more women in this industry, and that women who love what they do, and that this is a really, really cool, fun, challenging, forever changing industry, and keeping up with the change in rules, change in tax laws, keeps you motivated to want to continuously develop your career, right? How do you make this fun? And it's in a very safe environment where people work together, we collaborate and support each other. That's what I want my legacy, my impact to be. When I retire at some point, that's how I want people to talk about me in the room.
And I know they're going to, because I love what you've done and what you continue to do. What about your personal legacy? Because I know there's lots there.
Yeah, there's lots there. And we do a lot of fun challenges together, particularly my daughter and I, when we always talk about what our next challenge is. So we've done, we started with doing half marathons together, and then we did Tough Mudder. And
oh, Tough Mudder. Okay, my family does that too. I love that. So that is, have you done a Spartan race yet? It's so different than Tough Mudder.
Different. But then, every time we started doing harder and harder things, and then we decided, let's travel halfway across the world and, hike the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu, which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life physically.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love it. So I'm going to say your legacy personally would be always challenge yourself. Nothing ever is too hard. Never give up. Right? All of these things are, wow, okay, we should have started with that. That's incredible. And how often do you do these things with your daughter?
Once a year. We set our goal, we train, and we do it once every year.
I love that. I love that. And hey, solid invite anytime. No, I'm just kidding. But I feel like you're doing two things. Number one, you're creating a legacy and memories that you and your daughter will forever have. But I feel like it instills in that generation. It's also hard work. Like you said, you start training months before, right? In a day that and age that we live in, that everything's got to be instant, right? Everything can be to your doorstep at any time. This is something that's worked at and it's difficult. I love that. So thank you for sharing that. My very last question to you, and it means something different to everybody. What does it mean to you to be unbreakable?
I love that, and I love the whole saying, I am unbreakable. What it means to me is I'll take on any challenge. The more challenging it is, the more I'm motivated to do it, because I feel I am unbreakable. Bring on the challenge. Try and tell me I can't do it.
Oh, that's powerful. I love that. I knew you were going to go somewhere around that. And I'll be honest with you, I stump everybody with that question because it is so, like you said, impactful. Like, I am unbreakable. It's sort of like for you to say, the power of I am, right? And I see you as being this powerhouse professionally, but also personally, because I think how you show up personally leaks into how you show up professionally. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
That
We
is
are who we are.
that is so amazing. And you know what? I would love to have you on again. And I want to hear all about your challenges with your daughter. When are you going on your next one?
Well, we're just planning one for June of 2025 because they're getting bigger, right? So it's actually a sailing and hiking adventure through the Faroe Islands in 2025. And it's a very old-fashioned sailboat. So it's not luxury by any means.
I love that. You know what? Talk about living life. You know how to do it, Roxanne. Thank you so much. Big hug, big love to you. Thank you for everything you are doing for women everywhere. And I will include everything in the description. People can follow you and see all the amazing things that you're doing. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks, Adrienne. It was a pleasure.